effort to do that is important, to understand what addictions are, so that even as we are treating the said addictions, we can know what is it that we are addressing. Because when we understand what, then we can be able to appreciate the how. And that gives us now the interventions. When we look at addictions, and I also we run a rehabilitation center. And therefore, I have a lot of appreciation of addictions, also by working with NACADA as a senior consultant. We say that addiction is defined as a chronic, and you can even underline that in your mind, a chronic relapsing disorder, which is characterized by compulsive seeking. You are seeking. You may be seeking for pleasure in sex, or you may be seeking for a drug of choice because it's going to give you a certain kind of a feeling that you're looking for. So it is chronic. It is something that is continuous. But people can heal. We have had many times that you can be taken to a rehabilitation center and you come out and you're sober. And after 3 years, you go back to the addiction again. So it is a relapsing condition. And it is important as you're treating to know it is a relapsing condition, so that we are not so judgmental on the persons that come to us because they have this compulsive condition. It is considered again as a brain disorder. If you look at the Mutudo Act, we say it is a brain disease. And just like all other diseases, we need to be empathic with the persons who have a brain disorder. It involves changes within the brain circuits that are involved in the reward. Because we are rewarding the brain. We are giving the brain some happiness, some pressure. But again, within the brain, we can be going through a lot of stress that we would want to bring down. And within the brain, we may realize we do not have control. And that is why we are talking about compulsive. It is very compulsive. And it leads to unmanageability. When a condition becomes unmanageable, it is when you say, I have stopped, but you still find yourself going back to it. You have been masturbating, and you say, I am not going to masturbate again, and you find yourself going back to it. You've been taking marijuana, and you stop taking marijuana, and you say, never again will I go back to take marijuana, and you find yourself going back to take marijuana. Because there is something you are rewarding in the brain, and it has gotten to a level that treatment is required because you cannot be able to manage your behaviors again. So sex addicts are double-minded. They are ambivalent. Today they will promise you, I am going to stop that. But tomorrow they are doing it. And they really feel ashamed about it. That I have said, you have prayed for me. I have confessed my sins. And yet I'm finding myself going back to the same behavior again. It is about unmanageability. Can you tell the friend next to you, it is called unmanageability. It is unmanageable. But this does not mean that we don't have the ability to decide to recover from it. Those that are struggling with it, this does not mean that they cannot recover from it. They indeed can recover from it so that they can be well and they can trust God again. Let me give you an example of a friend of mine. He is a psychologist, and he came to me like 7 years ago, and he told me, Catherine, have you ever known who I am? I was his therapist. He had told me a lot. How would he tell me or ask me, do you know who I am? And I said, maybe, because you're the one who choose what to tell me. You're the one who choose what we can discuss and what we can deal with. You're the one who can tell me, is there something that you have found so difficult to tell me? Because maybe you think she looks like a mother. What is she going to think about me if I said what I am going to be saying? And I said, I will reason, and I'm not going to be judgmental to you. And he told me, I have all along been a homosexual. A homosexual is not yellow or green. A lesbian is not violet or yellow. They look like me, isn't it? They are me, actually. If you have ever held another sister or a brother, and you felt some sexual sensations within you, then you have been a lesbian or a homosexual. Because that's simply what it is, isn't it? It is the body finding pressure in somebody of your own kind, isn't it? Someone of your own kind. And you know the body does not think, and the body does not feel. Even when we are dealing with people who are sexually molested. And sometimes they are very judgmental on themselves, and they are saying, imagine how I enjoyed the rape. Imagine. Can you imagine how I enjoyed the rape? And we help them to see the body can enjoy, because the business of the body is to enjoy, isn't it? When it is touched, even the body of a pastor is going to enjoy, isn't it? But the mind is not enjoying. Is the mind enjoying? You have a conflict within yourself. You have a conflict because you are telling yourself, how can I enjoy a rape? How can I enjoy when my sister hugs me and embraces me? How can I enjoy? But the body in the business of enjoying will do that, isn't it? But the values are saying you cannot try to do that. And therefore, when you're counseling a person who is going through the struggle of homosexuality or masturbation or other conditions that we are going to be talking about, you're going to be reasoning to a lot of conflicts. You're going to be telling your client, your student, let me hear you. Tell it all. Because by telling it all, you are understanding yourself much better. Isn't it what happens? And so this friend of mine, he told me, I will tell you. And then he sat down on the chair, and he was looking like a 3-year-old. Then he was 37 years old. But now seated, he looked to me like he was 3 years old. And I told him, you have gone back very far. Sometimes we can be able to see when people have gone back very far. So he went back very far. And I asked him, how old are you? And he said, I'm 3 years old. And what is happening to you when you're 3 years old? He said, in our compound, there is my grandmother's house, and my grandmother has died. And my parents are career people, so they have gone to work, and they have left me with a house girl, and there is a house in the middle of the compound that is not having anyone. And the house girl is taking me to my grandmother's house and having sex with me and telling me, never tell anyone. Isn't it what we tell children as adults? Never tell anyone. He never told anyone. Because he was told never to say it. And if he said it, something was going to happen. But that was the genesis of becoming a homosexual. And so in Standard 6, he realizes he's having fantasy with other boys and not girls. Not girls, because he hated women. Because if someone has taken advantage of you, what the mind does is to generalize. Isn't it what happens? The mind is going to generalize, and everyone else who is a female is going to be put in the class and the category of the perpetrators of sexual violation. And so, Standard 6, the chaplain did not see, the teachers did not see, the administration did not note it. But in Form 2, he was chased away from school. When he went to the parents could not fathom. We are a religious people. What is it that you are trying to do? So they waited for the date when he was to be taken back to school, and he was taken back to school. When we are ashamed of ourselves, whether we are parents, or we are counselors, and we are referees, and we are chaplains, we don't want to say it, and we don't want to touch it, and we don't want to deal with it, and therefore it was not dealt with it. He told me then, if my parents did something, when I was in Form 2, I would not be struggling today. But tell me, Catherine, how do I change? Any time that I see the seed of a man, my body gets excited. When I see the buttocks of a man, my body gets excited. When I look at a woman, nothing happens. Remember, it is the physiology and the biology that is doing the work. And there is nothing that he feels when it comes to women. And therefore, the journey of transformation, if transformation is ever going to happen, is quite a journey. Because you are changing the physiology. For women, it's a little bit easy. Because for women, the anatomy of a woman can receive sex anytime, anyhow, isn't it? But the physiology of a man is very different. Addiction creates tolerance. The more you get used to addiction, it creates tolerance. The brain has the ability to adjust to whatever we present to it. If we present to it masturbation, the body will grab, the mind will grab. And what it does is that it creates a drawer, a cabinet, inside the brain. And it is very difficult because it is like indelible ink. It has been implanted. A lot of work is going to be done. Because there is a working model that has been implemented in the brain, and it is just going to be reproducing. The good example I see, because I am born in a village, is a place that men go to urinate. You didn't have urine in your body, but when you see that place where people go to urinate, you go in that direction and urine comes out. Naturally so. And so you see men lining up to go and urinate. And they are not feeling ashamed. Because the biological functions are taking place then. So you see how the body and the mind works. The nucleus accumbens That is the pressure center within the brain is excited. And sexual addiction increases what we call the dopamine and serotonin in the brain. Those are hormones that make us to be excited. A lot of things will elevate the dopamine. This is the reward system within the brain. When you want to take one for the Lord, it is the dopamine that you'd want to excite in the mind. But dopamine can also be excited by caffeine or nicotine or even by fantasizing having sex. So the fear and anxiety of it increases adrenaline in the body, which in turn increases the dopamine. There is dopamine rush within the brain. And so when we talk about addiction, there are certain things that we need to appreciate as helpers. That number one, addiction is degenerative and it is progressive. As you do your assessment, it is important for you to check, to assess, is it degenerating this individual and is it progressive? Let me give an example of masturbation. That masturbation escalates to affairs, many affairs, or even escalates to frequency, but the same behaviors. You're doing more of those behaviors. But addiction again can be destructive and can give us negative consequences. Money that was there is no longer there because you're using it for your addiction. It will affect our social relationships. It affects our health. You might get an STD. You may be traumatized. It may be spiritual. It may be relational. It may be educational. It may be legal. Let me give you an example with a girl I have been mentoring, because I do a lot of mentorship when it comes to young women and young women who are traumatized. She is at home and she's cleaning utensils, and daddy comes and holds her at the back and tells her turn, and the little girl turns, and the father lifts the 8-year-old and takes her on the bed and has sex with her and disappears from home completely, never to come back until the day he was getting buried. And mom says, you are the one who has made my husband to go away. You have caused this to me. And she runs away, and where she runs away, she is taken advantage of. When you start getting taken advantage of by one person, then that becomes a pattern in your life, because the boundaries have been removed. And because they are removed, you don't know how to guard yourself. Other people will come and do the same to you. And so, last year but one, I am called and I'm being told there is a girl committing suicide. And I'm saying, I am having a function of my daughter who is getting married. I am in a market. How do I handle this situation? But I thought my daughter getting married is not important as getting somebody who is committing suicide out of the act. And so I ring a friend and I say, do you have a shelter? Do you have a bed in your shelter? And it is important for you chaplains to know where the shelters are. If we are talking about our directories and our referral places, then the shelters are some of the places we can put people momentarily so that they can be able to calm down. And then once they are much better, we can get them now on the road of treatment. So she has not died. She has taken whatever she took. So doctors come, let's try to see what we can be able to do. And so she doesn't have a place. And this is a girl who was led by the father. and led by strangers and conceives twins. And so I get her, I bring her home. I ask my husband, God, allow this girl to be in this home. She's needing a place so that she can be better. And when she's giving her story, she says, it was the first time that someone came and said, I am going to work, you take care of yourselves, cook tea, and do whatever you need to do. Or my husband comes and says, have you bathed? Please do bathe, because it's important as you're doing other things that you're doing. The journey of her healing started there. And the journey of many that you have supported starts from there. Love. Communicating care. Telling them they are important. Even as they are thinking they have degenerated, they are in a bad place, they don't have finances even, and they are not even able to relate with themselves. The worst enemy is them in relationship to themselves. And that is why they cannot relate with you, because they do not know how to relate with themselves. The other thing to look into when you're dealing with an addiction is to know that the addiction is an escape from feelings. What kind of feelings? Can you tell your friend the feelings that we run away from? Yeah, identify the feelings. What are those feelings that we run away from? Someone can tell me? We are going to allow Lefred to leave. And have a good time and a good travel. Amen. Loneliness. We can run away from loneliness. Praise the Lord. Nice to see you. Right. Yes? Guilt. We can also run away from pain, isn't it? We are feeling a lot of pain, excruciating pain. We cannot handle it, and therefore we are running away from it by administering something to ourselves. Because you would want a stimulation, and you would want a relaxation, a stimulation to the dopamine, serotonin, adrenaline, the hormones that look for excitation. And you'd want to relax. That is why they will go back to sex again, because they are relaxing. Even when it is going to make them feel bad eventually, they will still go back to it. That may be our sons. Those may be our daughters. Those may be the ones that we work with in our schools or in our colleges. Again, addiction creates a sense of entitlement. We have anger. We have hurt. We feel abandoned. We are saying, I work too hard and I need relaxation. My wife is denying me. Or my husband is denying me. I am entitled to some excitement. As you do an assessment, it is important for you to check on these aspects. The degeneration and progression, destructiveness and negative consequences, the escape feelings that they are nursing, and the sense of entitlement that they have. Again, it is important for us to appreciate that addiction is used as a reward. We are rewarding ourselves. Even when people are taking beer or other drugs of choice, don't they say they are going to reward themselves? They go to reward themselves, isn't it? Yes. And sometimes you cannot understand that kind of a reward, but then they are feeling rewarded. A counselor friend of mine used to come out from the center she was working, go to a brothel, have sex with 5 people, and then go back again to cancel clients. You cannot understand that kind of madness, isn't it? But this is a person not delivered, going to deliver other people, isn't it? Do you think that counseling was helping others? Until one day the mother said, I am going to take you to a doctor. And took her to a muganga. And the muganga got a head of a dog, a skull. And it dropped right in front of her. And then the muganga asked, what are you seeing? And she said, a skull of a dog. And the muganga asked, would you be behaving like the way those animals behave? That is what stopped her. That was the sure treatment. I am not praying that we do that. But I think she was very repulsed that she can be behaving like that animal. She couldn't take it anymore. She stopped. You have to be very creative in your mind as you are helping people who are struggling with sex addiction. Addiction is about feeling power and about control of one's mood. They can control other people. Some sex offenders can be sex addicts. A study that was carried out found 50% of sex offenders can be sex addicts. But it is also important to note not all sex offenders are addicts. Not all the sex offending persons are addicts. It can be one, like the father of this girl. He was sex offending, isn't it? But he was not an addict. He did it in the spur of the moment. Harmed himself and harmed his daughter. So sex can be done because of lust, power, anger, personality disorder, because we can have compulsive, addictive behaviors or personality disorders. That you're so compulsive you don't think, you just do. And so because you just do, or your client just does, they will do, because they are not thinking about it. In Out of the Shadows by Patrick Kane, he gives 3 levels of sex addiction. The progression from one stage of addiction to another is dependent on the psychological and personality factors of the client you're dealing with. If this is an introvert, one may remain in the masturbation stage forever because they are introverts. They are not people attuned individuals. And the level 1 starts with a fantasy. It is in the mind. And it is important for us as helpers to appreciate that everything is first created in the mind and then it comes in reality. That is what Michelangelo says. In the mind. As you are helping this individual, let them tell you. They can even draw what is happening in the mind. They can also tell you what is happening in the mind. What are they telling themselves? What are the thought processes that they are having? Then in level 1, we still have masturbation. It is dangerous to encourage. Sometimes when we are doing marriage and family therapy, I graduated with my doctorate in psychology. I am a DLitt at FIO in psychology. But now I am doing another PhD in marriage and family therapy at Pan-African Christian University. That's an area of specialization now. Because you would want now to specialize in an area of interest. You can specialize in child counseling in trauma counseling, in medical conditions counseling, in addictions counseling. There are many areas in the area of counseling that you can specialize in. Even psychometric testing or even clinical psychology or forensic psychology, it is just like in the area of medicine. You start as a GP, as a general practitioner, and then now you can branch to an area of specialization. And so, when we are dealing with couples in sessions, you realize they were messed by masturbation. And you have now to help them to be able to undo what the masturbation did. Because masturbation, there are people who have sex and then they turn and then they masturbate. Because you remember we said there is a model that has been created in the brain. It is telling you, you cannot get completely satisfied with your spouse. You can only get satisfied when you have masturbated. Are you getting me? Because that is what the body learned. And therefore, masturbation will provide quick orgasm. Even our own children, we have to tell them what masturbation does. So that even as they are getting into it, they will know this is the harm that can happen. It is available. Gives one a fantasy. They go to pornography because they want to take the fantasy further than where it is. Make them have affairs. Some will get to prostitution. Others in anonymous sex. You have ever had friends with benefits? Yeah? Like here you can decide we are going to be friends with benefits. It is the imagination of the human mind, isn't it? That we are in Mombasa, not only are we going to be friends, but we are going to be friends with benefits. Our young people understand that language a lot. Friends with benefit. Having sex with anonymous people, you even don't know their names. And you're okay, isn't it? It is when you depersonalize and dehumanize yourself and make yourself an object to a place that your dignity is not taken into account. And when they come to you as a chaplain, you want to return the dignity back to themselves. In the level 2 is paraphilia, the paraphilias. These are other strange individuals. The fetishes, sexually attracted to a non-living object. Like they can be sexually aroused by a microphone like this. Getting aroused by, non-living objects. It can be a shoe. They are looking at the shoe and the penis goes elect. The paraphilias. You talk about queer behaviors. Voyeurism is gaining sexual pressure from watching others when they are naked or engaged. These are the peeping toms. Anataka kukuona ukiwa naked, and then the penis will go erect, or they will get excited, they will get wet. When others, they get excited, not them participating, but them watching when others are having their sexual activities, and they get aroused. Then we have the phone and cyber sex. We hear a lot about this. Like someone ringing you from America or wherever they are and say, remove your clothes so that I can see your nakedness. What is that? And when you're removing the clothes, they are feeling sexual from where they are. I'm not giving you ideas. I am bringing out content of our counseling sessions, isn't it? So that we can ask ourselves, and so how do we help them? Then we have bestiality. Having sex, there is the word sex that is not there with animals. Anakipisha kakat. Oh, the cow has fed the cow. And the cow has become friends with benefits. People have imaginations. Can you tell the friend next to you, people have imaginations? Yes. Then we have the level 3. These are the sexual offending individuals. The sexual offending individuals. These are very dangerous to children. They are very dangerous even to their spouses. They are dangerous even to the strangers. They can rape. They commit incest, molestation. This is what we call the authority rape. It is a minor form of sexual harassment. These are people who are criminals now. Because what they are doing, they are hurting other individuals. They even don't ask for permission. It is coercion for them. But even as you're dealing with the addiction, the many conditions that we are going to be talking about, how does the addiction cycle happen? Or the addictive system happen? There is the initiation phase. It is a situation of great psychological stress and intense pressure, and situation of using sex to cope with stress. That when one is very stressed, the other thing that you think about is sex. And in our therapy sessions with women, I think when the man feels very stressed, sex has a way of relieving him. When a woman is stressed, she does not want to touch it. I see that as a difference. And so this man who is stressed will come and tell the wife, we have to have sex tonight to deal with my stress. And when he has had sex, what women don't like at all is that after completing that, he snores. Quite loudly. And she has left without sleep. And that is why it is important to take care of your partner. You walk the journey with him or her. Even when you have left somebody behind. Or you have run very fast and finished the race alone. It is important to tell your friend, I'm so sorry. I left the race alone. And completed it, but not by disrespect. I will make it up for you another time. Isn't it important to say that? I will make it up for you. Because it is, sometimes we will have mediocre sex. Isn't that okay? Yeah? But then you can say we will try. You'll try another time. And it is going to be okay. Then we have the catalytic environment. There is an environment that can nurture this addiction. The high performance expectation and boredom due to unscheduled time. When we put our children under the feet of the demands that we would want them to achieve, then there is a way in which they can vent in that particular way. Again, an environment of extremes when our homes are extremely dysfunctional and chaotic and unpredictable. For the children to get control of their lives, they can start masturbating and start using sex as a way of control. Also, catalytic events, trauma, and neglect events. Do you feel neglected? I was listening to a 63-year-old who is a pastor who is saying, I think I don't know how to connect with people. My wife complains, my children have complained for all the years. And because I go to the kitchen and I cook for them, I imagine that I'm connecting with them in that way. But they are saying they need a relationship with me. And I need to go back to my childhood and find myself where I lost it. What happened to me that I do not know how to relate with other people? Apart from providing for them and doing things for them and fixing things in other people's lives, to a point that they have made me to be a Mr. Fix-It. But they don't see me as a human being. I want to search me. And so when he was searching himself, because he did a lot of work to search himself for a week, he said, I now know. My mother was an absent mother because she was in business. Therefore, she was not there for us as the boys, as the children. And when she's not in her business, she was in the farm. And therefore, we never related with mom. And dad was hardly there. So we were brought up by our cousins. We had to learn to hide our feelings. Because even if we, express our feelings, who is going to be there to take care of our feelings? And that is how I do not know how to take care of other people's feelings. So the trauma, the neglect events. It can be a sexual event, an exposure. One boy told me that he saw the mother had gone outside in a compound. You know how people lift up their skirts to urinate? That is what the mother did. From then on, he started having sexual desires towards the mother. That is how he started having sex with other girls in the village. Just that. So we are talking about exposure. He was not touched by anyone, but he saw, isn't it? The mother did not intend. The mother was in her business. Maybe she was really depressed. The mother was in her business. But being in your business does not mean that it is not going to destroy an individual. It will destroy an individual if you do not know. Or abuse. So explore these events and determine how they have led to thoughts of self-doubt. Because this may be a person who is doubting themselves. And it is important that you understand the addictive cycle. An establishment phase creates the addictive pattern. You start with preoccupation. You're always thinking about doing this, maybe masturbation, or even having sex with strangers, or having sex with your mother, or with your father, So thoughts are sexualized, and people are sexual objects. They are seen as sexual objects, and all places are potential places of sexual activity. For you as a helper, as a chaplain, determine times and events and places that trigger that preoccupation? What are the times? Is it in the evening or morning or during the day? What are the events? Is it during times of weddings? Is it during other occasions? What are those occasions? Because when you understand them, you'll be able to put a finger. Then what are the rituals that go with the addictive cycle? Are they thoughts, or growths, or emotions, or the preoccupation that we are talking about? Can you think about a ritual? Face the friend next to you and think about a ritual that would be there. When people are getting preoccupied in this addictive cycle of sex, what are some of the rituals that they may be engaging in? Can you talk with each other, please? Umesema nini? Disco Matanga, thank you so much. Umesema during circumcision times, umesema nini? Birthday parties. A ritual is something you do repetitively. What are those things that you do repetitively? You can be wearing a particular dress, and that dress makes you to feel sexual. Anytime that you wear it, or anytime that you wear clothes of a certain kind, like when a lady is wearing trousers, then you start feeling sexual, and eventually you go to look for people whom you're going to do sexual activities with. A ritual. Right? Then we have compulsive behaviors, out of control behaviors. They can be BJ, something that you're doing in one setting, a lot of it. It is a preoccupation, or even repeated failed attempts at trying to abstain. Eventually in that cycle is shame and despair. You can go to the addictive cycle. You can take us to the addictive cycle. That. The other slide. That. Yeah. There is the preoccupation, then the rituals. Inquire about the preoccupation. This is what is happening in the mind. Know what the rituals are. What is the compulsive behavior? It might be masturbation. It might be those homosexual tendencies. And eventually there is shame and despair. It is shame and despair because you're getting to levels of unmanageability. When you look at the broader addictive system, they are the aspects that you need to explore. Because the addictive cycle is part of a broader addictive system that consists of 3 elements. And the first element is 40 belief system. These people, they have 40 belief systems. What is a 40 belief system? What is a 40 belief system? A 40 belief system? A 40. 40. 40. 40 belief system. Yeah. Defective. A defective belief system. What is it?
A deceiving system.
deceiving system. It is lying to oneself, isn't it? Yeah, like you are telling yourself, if I have sex, wow, I'm telling you, I am in the moon, isn't it? But are they in the moon? They are not looking at the consequences of what they have entered into, isn't it? Because it is a package. They are not looking at it as a package. They're just looking at what they are going to feel in that moment in time. Then they have thinking errors. There is a difference when you are exploring the 40 belief system and also the thinking errors. Because the thinking errors is